Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members, for the opportunity to speak. My name is Clarence Clark. I'm the owner of Southeast Alaska Resources, a forestry consulting business. I was asked by the Alaska Forest Association to speak for them at this meeting. I must admit, this is as farther than I ever thought I would get away from my day job of speaking in front of you. So again, thank you for the opportunity. The state of Alaska is the home to the two largest national forests in the nation, the Tongass and the Tongass. The Tongass National Forest is 6.9 million acres, and 95% of the Tongass is in roadless. The forest plan for the Tongass has no allowable cut for saw logs. They do allow the harvest for saw logs and do approximately 200,000 feet a year. In Southeast Alaska, the federal government owns 94% of all of the land. 85% of that land is in the Tongass National Forest at 16.8 million acres. 66% of the Tongass is in roadless areas. There are 19 wilderness areas, more than any other national forest, and that contains 5.9 million acres. In total, 13.5 million acres of the Tongass National Forest is in non-development land bases, land uses. That leaves the development land base for the Tongass at 3.3 million acres, approximately 20% of the Tongass. Of that 3.3 million acres, approximately 360,000 of those acres are suitable and available under the current forest plan. What that really means is 2% of the Tongass is available for timber harvest at this time. The current forest plan has an annual projected timber sale quantity, which used to be called the allowable cut, of 46 million board feet on an annual basis. The forest products industry in Southeast Alaska uses 50 to 55 million board feet a year. Over the last 5 years, the Forest Service has offered an average of 2.5 million board foot. During that 5-year period, the industry has harvested 11.6 million board feet off of the Tongass. The rest of the volume that they use has come from state lands, be it state-owned forest, University of Alaska lands, Mental Health Trust. You've asked for us to talk about, and this committee meeting is about unleashing the potential. To unleash the potential of the timber industry, the industry needs stability. We are currently starting the third forest plan in the last 17 years in the Tongass. The last 3 administrations, the roadless rule has flip-flopped back and forth between being applied to the Tongass, not applying to the Tongass, to being unapplied again. There was a press release in 2021 that circumvented the existing forest plan that required the Forest Service or gave them the authority to transition immediately to a young growth dependent timber sale program. The current industry is old growth dependent. What this has done to the Forest Service employees, in my testimony, I speak of them as a punch-drunk boxer who has been knocked out, beat up, and confused. Which way do they turn? Every 4 years or less, management direction has changed. When you're looking at 3 years for an EIS project to be completed, the odds of your project ever being completed is pretty high. Stability means a steady supply of economic timber at a volume that matches the needs. The timber industry, like the wildlife in Southeast, is dependent upon old growth timber. We provide high-end products for the United States and for the world. High-end products such as, if you look around this room, the doors, the trim, the podium, the chairs we're sitting in are all wood products, all solid wood. We like to tell everybody that we supply the world music. Steinway Pianos, one of the high-end piano makers in the highest-end piano makers in the world, needs and uses only Sitka spruce from Southeast Alaska. We provide wood for the National Defense System. Sitka spruce goes into submarines. It goes into missiles. It is used by NASA for space exploration and providing propellers for their wind tunnels. How do we fix this? How do we provide that stability? We'd like to ask Congress to act. You have set aside numerous acres for preservation in the conservation units. Do the same for the timber industry. Set aside acres that cannot be undone for timber harvest.
Why is the industry reliant on old growth? What makes old growth so important relative to some of the younger growth timber?
The businesses that deal and buy purchase timber from the industry in Southeast depend on that high growth, high value, high quality wood. We are not an industry that produces 2x4s. We're not a dimensional lumber spaghetti mill. We custom cut high-end products for the world.
So the old growth has some particular qualities to it that are different from the inherent qualities of the young growth. Okay.
It takes years to develop that high-end quality in a tree.
And how long would you say generally it takes for those qualities to develop?
What we're finding now is approximately 250 years before you start seeing that high-end quality.
And that's what goes into a Steinway piano.
That's what goes into a Steinway piano. That's what goes into the defense submarines, missile heads.
So when we hear an artist play on a Steinway, that's 250 years of Alaskan growth. And we're reliant on that in order to continue to hear that quality music.
Yes.
Okay.
Most of the acoustic guitars built in the U.S. are made with Sitka spruce as well. The roadless rule has been detrimental in the ability for communities in northern Southeast to develop reasonably cost electricity. There are 6 communities in northern Southeast that the electrical associations, companies that provide them power, have FERCA permits for hydro projects. They are currently uneconomical because of the requirements put in the FERCA permit by roadless rules. Such things as painting the infrastructure to match the timber or to match the landscape. Again, these small villages are spending upwards of $1 million a year for diesel fuel for electricity. They're paying 40 to 50 cents a kilowatt hour instead of the 11 to 15 cents for hydropower. So roadless rule is stopping that economic development, making life in small villages able to continue.
All right, thank you.
Think about and talk about managing on a longer rotation. So instead of cutting old growth and producing young growth trees that we cut 2x4s, why aren't we managing old growth to produce old growth? Long-term rotation. Let's not change the Tongass National Forest from an old growth forest to a spaghetti mill, which is producing dimensional lumber. Let's keep it an old growth forest. There's a lot of value for the timber industry as well as wildlife, as salmon, subsistence. The federal agencies for the last 45 years since the passing of NILCA has developed workarounds to the no more clause. We'll look at the Tongass National Forest, where there's a 1 million+ acre wilderness study area. That's been ongoing for decades. ANILCA basically says within a year, if Congress doesn't act and make it a wilderness, that it should become part of the development land base, or not set aside. We look at the roadless rule. To me, that's another set aside that ANILCA says no more. We have reached a balance. When we look at the non-development lands in the Tongass National Forest, again, those are workarounds. They're not part of the conservation unit system, but they are set-asides that prevent the use of those resources. So again, being able to say no more federal agencies, Congress has acted, this is what we want, we think we've reached a balance, manage the federal lands accordingly.
My guess is you don't want to just cut it all down and then be done with it. I've heard that sustainable harvesting is a primary issue for you. Is that accurate?
That's correct. Why would we cut ourselves out of business?
I appreciate that.
I can mention a small operation in Craig on Prince of Wales Island. It's a father-son company. They deal with high-end music wood again. They have some 4,000 different clients that they sell blanks for guitars, for string instruments.
So I love those. So we're using our timber very differently. We're learning about these forests, right?
As we're learning about everything, and we learn about timber products as we develop and as we grow. Cross-laminated timbers. It's a new technology where we're starting to build panels so where you can build skyscrapers instead of using concrete and iron. It's a wood product. We cannot live, I think, as everyone knows, without wood products. We would not last a day
So we gotta use
without
it.
wood products.
You're saying we really have to use it responsibly, right?
Yes.
But the key word here is use.
Use.
right?
There's yes. Basically two types of mills. There's what we call a spaghetti mill, which is a fast, high mill that takes set diameter logs and they pass them through one log at a time, one pass, and they make dimensional lumber in general. Or we look at the mills like we have in Southeast Alaska, which are high-grade mills, quality mills, where they will take that log, look at that log, turn it multiple times, and cut from that, and all they're doing is trying to cut the grade, the quality out of that. They'll take the time. The cost of doing that is much more than that high computer-generated mill, but we're talking quality and using the highest use for that tree, that log. Truly believe in good neighbor authority and stewardship contracting that the Forest Service uses, because that money generated stays on that forest to do work on that forest instead of coming back to DC to go into the federal coffers. Very little private land in Southeast, which is stagnating the communities. There is no room for growth because almost all of the land is federal land. So how do we grow our communities? How do we sustain an economy when we have no place to go, no place to grow? I like the idea, the concept of the Alaska Mental Health Trust and the fact that we've set aside land for the Mental Health Trust to help cover the cost of dealing with people at risk. Personally, it's really, really important to me as I have a son who is a trust or a beneficiary of the trust. And that means a lot to me to be able to see that land use, land management, money generated from that is going for a purpose that we need to take care of. We need to take care of our people at risk.